We're here today in the W.L. Mills Conference Center, a brand new facility in Gatlinburg that's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm here today with Cindy Ogle, our city manager. Cindy, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here today with you in this wonderful, gorgeous place.
And today we're going to talk about a few things that are very pertinent to Gatlinburg. And I think we'll start out with the budget, if that's okay.
Okie dokie. And to try to make this not too terribly boring.
Okay.
I think, I don't know how much of the public sees of this, but of course this is the document. And I know that you don't want me to go through this page by page. But the document is, by the way, available, of course, at City Hall. It's available at the library. It's also accessible on our website. And so I think that's important to let folks know that there are many ways to get to it, and we encourage that. But as you well know, as a city commissioner, we had our usual summer-long budget process.
Would you go over that a little bit, the process, the beginning of it, and run through it? I don't think people really understand how much time and work is involved in it.
Yeah, I certainly will. Actually, internally, we start the process in April. We send to department heads forms for them to fill out, basically, simply, in regards to their budget request for the coming fiscal year. On those forms, we show a couple of years of activity. We usually give them a limit of what they can ask for, and very candidly, that's been virtually zero for several, level budget requests for several years. In a couple of years, we actually even said you got to reduce it by 1% or 2%. So we've had some pretty lean and mean budget beginnings in that regard. So anyway, we start the process administratively in April. The forms are turned back into our Assistant City Manager, Finance Director, David Beeler, middle of May, and he begins the process of the input of the request, and therefore the beginning document. And then he and I meet with department heads the early part of June with every department head and go through a process to try to make sure we understand what they're requesting before, of course, we present it to you city commissioners. So David Beeler and I work pretty hard for the month of June, and we have until July 20 to present the budget. So basically a 6-week period that we're working toward trying to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done, but doing it in as conservative and as responsible a way, because we are very big on the fact that we are the stewards of the taxpayers' dollars.
Absolutely.
And I preach that a lot, and so we're very cognizant of that. And so then by July 20, we have to present a budget to City Commission. Actually, the charter doesn't say it has to be balanced, but that's generally that's always what we've done. And so we present a balanced budget, meaning that we estimate revenues and we estimate expenditures, and those line up. However much money we're estimating to collect is only the amount of money that we come to you requesting for appropriation for the various departments. You get the budget roughly the 19th, 18th, 19th, sometimes the 20th, but it's usually the 18th or the 19th, and then begins the process of, we do an all-day budget presentation. We did it this year in this new wonderful building, in the boardroom actually, and that was fun. As fun as it can be, but it was a wonderful setting and environment. And so we do an all-day budget presentation, and then we move into a series of workshops. And I guess what we usually end up having anywhere from 2 to 4 workshops from that point until you commissioners have until September 1 to pass a final budget. So it's basically going all the way back to April and concluding by the end of August, and so it's a pretty long process, and a lot of people involved in it. Takes a lot of effort, a lot of working together and team effort, and with that we're generally able to pass a budget.
Where are we as far as budget amount now?
The overall budget amount, and let me just look down periodically here.
Sure.
So, and let me also put on my glasses. The total budget for the 2006-2007 fiscal year is a little over $53 million. Now that is all funds of the city. That's the general fund. That's the utilities funds, the Department of Tourism fund, the special revenue funds, debt service funds. I mean, that is the whole ball of wax. So that is the overall budget.
And as far as projecting increases in
Right.
our income, you just sort of project it from the year before?
Right. Well, we actually have a spreadsheet that we use that looks at a 5-year period, and so we do more than just looking to the previous cycle. We really do try to do some historical tracking of how things have been, how the economy has been for a 5-year period of time, and then make some projections and make the projections from that. We have a philosophy administratively, and Commission has generally endorsed this, that we underestimate revenues and try to be realistic. We don't overestimate expenditures. We try to be realistic, though, on how much we're telling you things are going to cost. So we try to do the budget and manage the budget in that way, so that our revenue projections for the last several years have been pretty modest. Certainly nothing above 4 or 5% or in any of the major categories. Even though we've actually enjoyed some pretty good growth the last couple of years in terms of the overall city coffers. And I know that I need to say this because I'm reminded of this often by my husband, whose family, of course, is in the tourism business and has been for years. What the city sees can be, of course, different from what the individual business people are seeing.
Right.
So I do want to let folks know that I'm very, very much aware of that. Obviously, as more businesses open, then city monies as a whole increase, and that may not be reflective of individual business situations. So,
Right.
but as a whole, we have enjoyed a couple of pretty good years from the standpoint of the overall business economy, and but yet we try to still stay under what even we see perhaps has happened over the last 5 years.
I think that's very, very prudent, and if you're always conservative, then if things are better, that's great. But if things are worse, then you don't have
and quite candidly, because of that approach, we have been able to collect more money than we estimated, and that helps what we call the fund balances of the city, which on a state level that's referred to as the rainy day fund, and so people maybe connect more with that. We call it fund balances in the different funds. On a personal basis, it's like your savings account.
Sure.
So because of that, we have been able to continue to add to and at least maintain some pretty healthy fund balances throughout the city, which is important to the overall financial financial status of the city.
Right.
So,
And I know every year there's a request for new equipment, different
Yes, sir.
equipment. How are we looking this year?
well, we have in the general fund for many years now had an equipment replacement program that we fund, and sometimes it's easier than other years, but that program continues to be funded in the general fund, and I didn't write that number down, but it's somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000, and I know I can look it up here in a moment if we need to, but in the general fund we have an equipment purchase replacement program that goes to general fund equipment needs, which of course includes police, fire, sanitation, street, recreation,
Right.
all those departments. So that's in the general fund for continuation. In the other funds, there are different pieces of equipment. overall, we probably have close to $2 million of equipment in this proposed budget, and the I guess the disclaimer there is that $700,000 of that are for new trolleys, which that is basically 80% grant money. So I would need to be clear in saying that, but even aside from the trolley proposed trolley purchases and the trolley grant, we have close to $2 million of equipment in all the different funds of the budget. And of course, the equipment's absolutely imperative in delivering the services to the citizens and the visitors and the businesses. And I hope and trust that everyone understands that. I mean, these are real equipment needs to keep good equipment out there, to keep good services in action. And that's the other thing I would say about the budget overall is that you all approved a budget that has no new taxes in it, which is always a really important thing, of course, to the people paying the taxes, but yet continues a pretty good level of services and what we hope and think and want to be a quality delivery of services to the people. So that's kind of the overall. Of course, that's motherhood and apple pie kind of stuff, but but it is indeed what we think this budget represents and reflects, and what we're moving forth with administering since you've approved it.
I just think it's a great process, the way that it all happens, the way we go through it, and to look at each department and the needs. And there's always needs, but we try to prioritize it to what we absolutely have to do.
Right. And, you know, another thing that might be good to mention, that you just spurred this thought, is in regards to the fire department and in regards to our rescue service, our ambulance service. And of course, that's an extremely important service that the city is to be about, and in an effort to enhance that service, we came to you with a request to create a part-time paramedic EMT employment pool.
Very good.
And so that is something that actually the chief and I discussed a few days ago, and I think they pretty much have it formed. I'm not exactly sure, but certainly it's going to be a great aid to the city in providing that intrinsic service that we all really
have to have. Yeah, definitely.
Hope we don't have to have it, but need it to be responsible to, again, our public. So that was something that's a unique personnel part of what we came forth this year, and that actually enables the city to staff up without hiring permanent employees and having the all the costs that are not just the salary costs, but the benefit costs that are associated with that. So we'll see how it goes. We think it's going to be a really good way to, again, staff up that important function of the city. So,
you know, I hear a lot of people compliment and just comment how wonderful downtown looks with the undergrounding.
Yes, sir.
And I think every time we drive through it, we're just proud of the fact that we went ahead and did that. Now we have another phase coming up. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, sir. The next phase, which is labeled Phase
5.
Yeah. I should have started there, should I? Unless I knew exactly. But it is Phase 5. We'll resume the 1st of November, and so basically it's going to be the same construction schedule as this most recent phase, November through May. It will resume where we stopped, which is basically on Parkway in front of the old Smoky Candy Kitchen, and comes actually just beyond, just right at the far edge of the convention center property, our convention center property on Parkway.
Okay.
And these places I'm saying are both sides of the street. just trying to simplify it by using landmarks on one side of Parkway. So we will be having a tenant property owner meeting sometime in October. We did that a couple of times in the last phase before we began. As you know, we had a public hearing and then we had a tenant property owner meeting, and I think that served us very well in trying to make the project as plausible, that's not the word I'm looking for, as livable with as possible. And we know that it was very difficult, but I've talked to some of the businesses in the area and basically they say, yeah, we took some losses, but it is really good and positive, and we're looking forward to the future as we continue to improve town. So that's great.
And I mentioned the undergrounding, but still I want to mention the streetscaping that looks just absolutely great with the benches, the planters, the garbage receptacles.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I'm so involved in this. I forget that when I say undergrounding, that's what I'm thinking about too, but that's not necessarily what anybody else is thinking about. So yeah, yes, that is an extremely important part of this whole effort of improving the aesthetics of downtown. And to brag on yourself and you'll pay for it later, but I truly have had colleagues from all over the state comment to me about what we have done and how downtown looks, and I know you've had a host of comments, and other commissioners have as well. So I do think it's turned out to be a much better situation than I thought. Again, totally knowing that it was very difficult in this next phase, by the way, actually is even more complicated than the phase that we just did. We're also coming up Airport Road a couple of 100 feet, and what I understand is that the intersection of Parkway and Airport Road is a pretty complicated intersection. But so bear with us again as we move forth. We will continue to communicate and be open to concerns and making adjustments. We did that repeatedly in this last phase, and we've done it in every phase that we've done. So we want to be about doing that within reason, and we do look forward to doing this next phase. I still have a wish that we could even, that the next phase is the last funded phase at this point in time. And so maybe between now and next year we can figure out a way to come up with some more money to finish Parkway. I think that now that we've seen what has been accomplished, that's definitely a goal that's there for many of us, and I'm not trying to announce that we've gotten there, because we have not gotten there, but we will continue to try to get there.
Right. And like you mentioned, all the different phases, little piece at a time. Every piece that's done is just such an improvement.
Absolutely, and I think this phase, the phase that we did a few years ago, which I guess technically was probably phase 2, but basically from traffic light 3 up to Mountain Mall, I mean, that was a significant phase. That was the most significant we had done up until that point in time. This phase, though, was just so dramatic in terms of the change, and I don't know any other way to say it, but I've had people comment to me, it looks like Parkway is wider, and the sidewalks are wider, and all those kinds of things. So it's hard for me to say that we're looking forward to beginning construction in the next phase, because it is a challenging thing for the businesses, for the city, and for everyone involved. But certainly we're looking forward to the conclusion of the next phase and seeing another huge improvement in our downtown.
Okay, that would be a good segue to go to 321.
Yes, sir.
Tell us
Okay.
about it. It's finally open, it's finished, it looks beautiful too.
Yes, sir, it does, except let's jump right to the median discussion.
Okay.
And say that the state had, well, let me back up and say this. The state has not turned over the medians or the sides of the road to the city, okay? And I think that's important to make that clear. Of course, the state will never turn over the road to the city because it's a state road. But as it relates to the landscaping project that we'll move to here in a minute, but due to, so we've been in, there's been a little quandary here, and we pushed the state and got them to mow the medians right before Labor Day. They're in desperate need of mowing again, and I was able to report last night at the City Commission meeting that they're scheduled to come in late September to do another mowing, come again in late October to do another mowing, and then the landscape project is to begin sometime in November.
Tell us a little bit about the landscaping. How extensive will that be?
Well, it's $1 million project, maybe even $1.1 million or $1.2 million. We're in the process of bidding the project, and to refresh everyone's memory, when Governor Bredesen was elected and he appointed Tennessee Department of Transportation Commissioner Gerald Nicely, they came up with a list of 15 projects, give or take a couple, in the state that were identified as projects of concern and that needed further study and review, and both Phase 1 and 2 of 321 made that list, of Highway 321 made that list. So there was a content, and I never say this exactly right, context-sensitive solutions process that was initiated. A community resource team was established, and I'm sure a lot of people are sitting out there thinking we already know all this, but maybe for those that don't, I think it just helps put it in context. And so there was a process of several months of review of Phase 1. Now, bear in mind, of course, when this occurred, Phase 1 was well under construction. And then I think there's still actually, this process is still underway on Phase 2. But Phase 1 is what was looked at immediately because the state knew that it was well under construction, and the resource team came forth with two major recommendations. One was to do much more landscaping than what the city had planned several years ago. The city had developed an internal plan probably 4 or 5 years ago that you commissioners funded to the tune of a little over $350,000. But they came forth with a recommended plan that involved much more, including the addition of the medians.
So there'll be plantings in the medians plus on the sides?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the landscape plan is available both at City Hall and at the community center. So please go look at that if you haven't already done so. But basically, it's exactly what you just said: planting in the medians and planting on the sides of the roads. So the governor, the TDOT commissioner, and the governor embraced the other recommendation related to the painting of the walls, which has now since occurred. And those recommendations were endorsed ultimately by the governor. He came here, I guess, a year ago this past summer. It could even be 2 years by now, and announced that they accepted all those recommendations, and then they turned to the city and asked the city to handle the landscape part of it, knowing that we have excellent people in that regard, that we have a landscape architect, a horticulturalist, an arborist, all those kinds of expertise that we have built within our own Parks and Grounds department. So they asked the city to handle the landscaping, and that's basically what has been occurring. They also asked us to utilize the design firm that had carried the CSS process through, and so we utilized that company, and they came up with the plan, and I guess we reviewed the plan with City Commission 3 or 4 months ago, and so we're in the process of, everyone has agreed to that plan, and we're in the process of the bidding, and again, anticipate beginning the actual, digging the ground, planting the plants, those kind of things in November, and then complete it sometime next spring. So
Best time to plant.
Yes, sir. So in the next few months, there will be, again, talk about dramatic improvement. We've talked about this undergrounding and streetscape in downtown. There will be dramatic improvement in the looks of that Highway 321 corridor.
After 5 years, it's great to have it open.
It is time, isn't it?
It is, and I guess our hope is just to have it continue on all the way to at least Interstate 40. If that could ever happen, it'd be great for us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What else do we have?
Well, what else we have is to kind of come back to the budget.
Okay.
And to talk about some other projects that have received funding in this budget, and just to bring everyone up to date on that.
Excellent.
And so I've got kind of a laundry list here, if I could just kind of
let's hear 'em.
Go through that. And I started with utilities for no reason other than the fact that's where I started. And in regards to utility projects, and again, these are newly funded projects, is the difference, is kind of the transition that we're making now. We've just talked about ongoing, previously funded projects, and these are new projects. One is a project related to water improvements in the Ridge Road, Kings Ridge area. And that project is estimated to cost $1,130,000. And as a matter of fact, last evening, y'all passed the initial bond resolution associated with that, and actually passed an engineering agreement to get that project underway. But very simply, this is to do a much-needed upgrade to the Ridge Road, Kings Ridge area water system due to the growth in the demand on the system.
In the age of the existing system.
Yes, sir.
That was put in the 60s.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
40 years later, it's time to upgrade.
It's about time, huh? So that is one. Another one in utilities is interim wastewater treatment plant improvements. And that's at a funding level of a little over $490,000. And this is to do just what that says, some interim improvements at the sewer plant that will make it run better and will still be a part of any expansion that the city ultimately does. So if you remember, we wanted to make sure, and we were concerned, and we verified with the engineer and we have an operation and maintenance contract with Veolia at the sewer plant, that indeed these would be, these investments on these interim improvements will stay in place even as the city moves forth with an expansion. And that is another topic perhaps that we should mention briefly, that after months and, well, years of talking and trying to work with the state on expanding at our present site. As you know, you all have recently passed a resolution to jointly work with the city of Pigeon Forge for an ultimate outfall at the French Broad River.
Right.
Now, we probably just need to do one of these segments on that, because it's a huge undertaking in so many regards, beginning with money.
Right.
And so we've got a ways to go. We've got a lot of work to be about there, and in a few months I think we probably need to sit back down again and maybe just even focus on that as a discussion point, because this could become the largest capital project this city's ever done, including this facility that we're sitting in today. So let me just say that we are very much working in cooperation with Pigeon Forge. We have initiated discussions with the park about obviously the piece that would involve the spur in terms of a sewer line down the spur. So there are many major discussions going on out there that we need to get a little bit more under our belt to see just really how this thing is going to end up. But in the meantime, then we're going to be about doing some improvements at the plant that we think will number one, again, will be continue to be utilized for years and years to come, and will be an asset to the operation of the plant.
And I think it's good to mention too, because we're joint venturing with Pigeon Forge. They're in the same boat we are.
Yes.
They have to do
yes.
the same thing.
Yes, sir. So then there are 3 in-house projects and utilities. One is sewer, and it's doing some minor work on Roaring Fork. It's just $26,000. There's a Buckhorn Road extension project that was authorized, and a Laurel Road extension project. And these are the smaller projects that, as you well know, we have an in-house crew that's extremely talented and does a great job. And this has been a real successful program and a way to on smaller projects, extend water and sewer services in our city for probably, 9 or 10 years now, I guess. So we continue with some of those efforts and some of these smaller projects, as I just mentioned, getting funded in this year's budget. And then the other thing to mention, because quite candidly, some of these other projects will not even start until after the first of the calendar year, because of our agreement with the National Park, to run a sewer line to the Twin Creeks Science and Education Center facility that they are building. And you're very well aware of this in terms of they approached the city a year and a half or so ago about the need for the city to do this work. And so we're in the process of actually working on a final agreement in that regard that we will be bringing to City Commission in the near future. But as soon as we get the I's and dotted and the T's crossed with that final agreement, we will be literally hitting the ground running with that project. And that project will probably take 6 to 8 weeks. So some of these other projects will definitely be after the first of the year scheduling, but the good news is they're funded and they're gonna get done. In terms of other new projects, the Winter Lights program, which is being called the Winter Magic program, but I'll always call it Winter Lights because that's what it's been for 100 years, and that's what it is. But as you also know, we had a study done a few months ago by the same company, actually, that developed and, developed and coordinated the Tunes and Tales event that has
Which
been
was quite successful.
Quite successful. And so from that study, you all authorized a 3-year phase-in of new lights. And so year 1 is this year. Year 1 purchases are actually in the process of being constructed right now, and that involves new pole decorations in the undergrounding area that are really neat looking. And you saw the display, and maybe some folks watching saw the display, but we're excited about rejuvenating the program, bringing in these new elements. Again, it's going to be a 3-year phase-in, so it's not going to be just all at once, everything brand new, but it will be phasing this in. And the overall 3-year program is close to $1 million, and of course we'll be doing some selling of surplus lights as we can and offsetting some of those costs in that way. So I think that's going to be pretty exciting. We have
Absolutely.
some new lights.
And we know how the winter lighting program, how it affects our business and how important it is. And I think with the number of repeat customers we have, a whole new display is going to be welcomed. It's going to be good.
And so we'll look forward to seeing that, literally, believe this or not, November the 8th is the kickoff of the lights. In terms of the recently approved budget in the State Street Aid Fund, we continue the paving program.
Which is in-house also.
Which is in-house also, but now I will say this year there's close to $260,000 in the paving program. And to be very open, as we'd like to be, there's only 6 roads, 2 of which are roads right here next to us. One being Historic Nature Trail Airport Road has to actually be milled and repaved. And then Cherokee Orchard Road is a repaving. And quite candidly, we may end up doing those on a contractual basis. We'll definitely have to contract out the milling piece of it, so it's probably going to make more financial sense to just go ahead and contract out the paving at the same time.
Right.
And certainly if we can coordinate the Cherokee Orchard piece, then we would contract it out as well. But that will be the first time in what? I guess this paving program is probably 16 years old now. And so that will be this will be one of the very few times that it will not be in-house. Now the other 4 roads, which are smaller roads in the program, will be done on an in-house basis. So just to clarify that.
And that makes sense to do it that way. I think it was amazing. And the Parkway is like, one night it was milled, paved, striped. You know, people like woke up the next morning, it was done, and that was amazing.
That was great. Times have changed. There was a few years ago that probably wouldn't have happened just quite that way. So that was great. And then let me go to the Special Revenue CIP Fund.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I again don't want to bore everyone to death, but it's very important to explain that this is the fund that funds the majority of the capital projects of our town. And this fund has as its sources the restaurant tax, a part of the gross receipts tax. There's some golf course revenue that comes into this fund that goes back to a project actually back in the early 90s when we redid the greens and the cart path. And am I missing?
Amusement tax.
And the amusement tax. Thank you, because that's actually the infusion of the money from the amusement tax is how this undergrounding really was enabled. So that is a very important piece of it. So capital projects that you all authorized in this budget, in this 06-07 budget, there are 2 related to the golf course, a new clubhouse, which is estimated at $1.3 million, and hole renovations, of which there are about 6 holes to be renovated at $550,000. Debt is being issued for those projects. Actually, the bond resolution passed last night. I mentioned earlier related to the Kings Ridge water project, but it also included these 2 golf course projects. And the importance of the next important thing to say is that the golf course debt is to be funded by fee increases at the golf course.
And membership increases.
Fees including membership, cart fees,
right.
and greens fees. And I think that's just really important to explain that the reason that you all ultimately agreed to move forth with particularly the clubhouse project is what's been in the discussion phases for a couple of years actually. But I guess the icing on the cake was us administratively coming up with a plan to show that with certain increases in cart fees, in membership fees, in greens fees, and none of them being, dramatic increases, that enough enough new revenue would be generated to fund this debt. So I think that's important to say.
When will this work begin? As far as the golf course?
The golf course work basically will begin, the whole renovation they're trying to start in November. And I say trying because there's a bid process going on right now, so you never really know exactly the time frames until you receive bids and sign a contract and do those kinds of things. And then the clubhouse project to start sometime in December. And then both are to be complete late summer next summer.
I think it's important too with the whole renovations. One of the main reasons to do it is to help speed up play.
Yes, sir.
And not just to redo the holes for just any reason, but it will help speed up play, and that will mean more revenue.
Right. And if I don't knock everything off the table, here is a rendering of the clubhouse that we were presented with from the architect, Mike Smelser's the architect on this, as he was on this beautiful facility. So we're in pretty good hands.
It looks great. They're going to reuse the stone.
Yes, sir.
Like
So
they did here.
here's the the old clubhouse is to be taken down but reuse the stone, as you just said. There will be a temporary facility, trailer really, for the purposes of still. I mean, we want and plan on people to play golf through this whole thing.
Sure.
And I have, I'll just speak about my crazy brother-in-law who's an avid golfer. I shouldn't talk about grouping them all together, but I know it wouldn't stop him from playing.
No,
So
Mike could play if it was snowing.
yeah,
so.
yeah.
I think it's really neat, the improvements in the design, and I'm so glad that SRA has been involved with this too, is the just the flow of being able to drop off your bags, park, get to the carts, and it's just it's a well-needed improvement. I think it's going to be great.
I think so too. So, and then let me wrap up here in terms of these capital projects. Also in that in the special revenue CIP fund, some money, $70,000 set aside on a wayfinding and signage system
Very
program that would utilize the services of Roger Brooks, who was a keynote speaker at our tourism summit the beginning of this calendar year, and so we several of us heard him, and he's quite actually. Then he came back in and did an assessment of the whole area that he presented, I guess in the spring. And so there's some interesting things in that report as well. But we have not actually done anything on this project yet. The ones that we can kind of wait and see really how revenues are coming in, we tend to be about doing that. So
Hopefully we can do that.
yes,
Because
yes. I'm not saying that we won't do it. I'm just saying that we actually have not entered into an
Contract
agreement with him or anything of that nature. That would be, by the way, to be looking at the public signage, the directional signage of the city, area directional, business directional, just basically trying to come up with a better sign system to get people moving about.
more customer friendly and help
Exactly.
our guests find out what they need to know.
And a couple of other projects, a Prophet Road median improvement project was also funded in this year's budget, and it is as simple as what it sounds like, and that is to do a median beautification improvement at the intersection of Highway 321 and Prophet Road, which should be just an additional aesthetic improvement to the whole Highway 321 corridor, plus the fact that a library is going to be out there pretty soon, and a Boys and Girls Club that you've been very involved and instrumental in is under construction.
Right? They've broken ground.
The community center at the high school. So this is a project to be about recognizing all the activities and
All that good synergy.
facilities that are there.
Right. Right.
And speaking of the library asked for an additional appropriation of $360,000 from the city, and that you guys graciously have earmarked that in the budget. And I guess we would just, at this point, need to say that even as we speak, they have announced that they have basically met the fundraising goal. There is a $130,000 shortfall, but they basically have met the fundraising goal and asked City Commission for authorization to proceed with the project, which you unanimously, easy for me to say,
Right.
gave. So the not stealing the thunder from the library people at all, but I'm sure it'll be in the Mountain Press. It may already be in there today. Everyone's going to know about this, and so this is a great public-private venture to construct a new library immediately adjacent to the community center. So excited about that and moving forward with that. And of course we've got some things to work out, but those will get worked out and we'll be moving forward with that project.
And as we,
that I sat on a library expansion committee 15 years ago, so I can tell you firsthand, this one has been in the works a long time.
it's time for a new library
Yes.
for Gatlinburg, definitely.
Yes, so those are the new projects proposed.
Okay.
And I guess the only other couple of notes that I have here would be to say that in terms of updating status of projects is really where the category this falls under is in regards to Glades Road. And we had a study performed it was actually presented, if I can get down here and get that, there you go, thank you, sir. This was presented to the city last spring of '05, and there are like 10 priority area recommendations made in here. Of course, the city and I hope particularly the Glades and that area of town knows that we have done. You all authorize quite a bit of work to already occur, which has occurred, and part of that being a new boardwalk in front of the Morning Mist area. And so just very recently you have authorized the city administration to move forward with extending that some 400 feet. That will involve securing easements from property owners in that area, so we will begin a conversation about that and of course hope for donation of those easements so that the city can extend that boardwalk and then go into some final design about improvements from that point, connecting all the way down to the powder mill area. And there's a whole concept in here that you all have already approved that requires some more design work and survey work and moving forth with that part of it. So continuing to do the best we can to make improvements in the Glades area, an extremely important part of town in any way you look at it, whether it be from just the artistic perspective, the talent perspective, from the economy perspective, just from the just how what a great thing it is for our town to have that concentration of craftspeople and artisans, and how important it is to us. And we're trying to do some things out there to improve the pedestrian flow and the vehicular flow, and that's coming mainly out of this study that came forth last spring.
Right.
So,
And
you may want to comment some about that. I mean, I really do think that there's been some very good recent discussion with property owners and members of the arts and crafts community, and so I think that we're going to be able to move forward with some things that they would like to see happen.
Absolutely, and I think, and I can speak for the rest of the commission, they know that there are certain improvements that need to be made, and we're concentrating on that, the things you just mentioned, and continuing to look at how we can make the road a little safer.
Right.
And it's such an important part of our community, and a lot of our residents live out there and travel
Absolutely.
those roads, so any improvements that we can make are going to be very important.
Absolutely.
I know in 2007 we're going to have a very important event in our city of a bicentennial.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. The bicentennial year has basically been established based on the fact that that's when the Ogle cabin was constructed.
Right.
And so that is what is being recognized as the settlement of the area. And so
Right there by Arrowmont, right?
well, it was, I think it was some, yeah, it's been moved
But it's
there.
been moved,
yeah.
but that's where it
yes,
is
sir.
now.
Yes,
Right.
sir. But that is exactly where it is now. And we actually operated as a mini welcome center in the summer season and through October. But the city commission the city commission appointed a committee a few months ago, and that committee has been meeting every couple of weeks. Good committee, hard-working committee, dedicated committee. Lee Miller and Francis Shambaugh are the co-chairs of that committee. A lot of city folks involved in it, special events, and our tourism director and such as that. So the committee has presented to the city commission a proposed program, and I will not go through that because it's 4 or 5 pages.
Right.
But they have a lot of ideas and projects. The actual kickoff of the bicentennial event will occur at the Chamber of Commerce banquet
This November.
late November, and so that will be the kickoff, and the conclusion will be the Galtenberg Gateway Foundation Gala in the fall, in
2007.
December of 2007. And many events in between. And so that's a very, very brief sketch of a lot of hard work and some really great ideas that are out there. The library is being designated as a bicentennial project. There's a joint effort with the National Park for their Music in the Mountains event that actually we're going to co-host with them here in the Mills Conference Center sometime in late March of '07. Historic plaque project, there's going to be some more historic plaques that are put out as part of this. A couple of photographic projects, one of which actually will again be housed in this facility and will relate to the forefathers and mothers of our town. And there's a whole list of projects here that I'm sure we'll be hearing more and more about, but it is an exciting event, and I think will make 2007 a really special year.
I think so too. And one project that I'm excited to see that the city's going to help get started again is the Run for the Hills, which will be another bicentennial project. It's a 10K race that we had here for years.
For years, yes, sir.
And I had someone the other day say that they really wanted to run in it next year, and then several other people commented, that they really missed the race. So I think this is going to be a good beginning of the bringing back the Run for the Hills.
Yes, sir. I do too. So, I don't think I've got enough energy
To run.
to run. I don't think I'll be signing up for the race, but it was a great event, and it will be great to see it rejuvenated.
Right.
So that will be great, and I'm sure that that we will hear more, and I'm sure that Kevin, our PEG producer, will be doing some special things about much more specific about all the different events that are forthcoming. And so and I need to say also that the chamber is involved in this. Our chamber director is on the committee, and so there's here again there's a partnership.
Right.
And
Which
that
is so
what
important.
that is absolutely what all of these things are about, is a team effort and a partnership to make our city the best that it can be.
Absolutely. Cindy, I'm excited that we're here in the Mills Conference Center today, and I've got a property management business that I've been in over 20 years, and our past guests, they come back usually every year, and they comment on the undergrounding downtown, and I tell them, I said, if you want to see something really beautiful, come up here to the Mills Conference Center. And a lot of them have come in, have walked through it, looked at it, and come back and just say it's absolutely gorgeous. And we can hear some of the sound and voices and things in the background. We have a brand new piece of business which we were really hoping for, that we'd get a lot of new business. But as we're sitting here today, there's a brand new convention of, I think they're
Credit managers.
credit managers.
We may need to go talk to them.
We'll find out, what kind of deals they can give us. But it's great to have new business in this new building, and for any of the local residents that haven't had a chance to see it yet, they really need to step inside and take a look.
Will make them extremely proud of their community, and I really do hope that most of the locals have been in here because again, it's just a great facility, and like you say, it's about generating new business,
right.
And we are seeing that, and so we're very pleased about the new businesses coming forth, and plan on building even more new business.
Absolutely. And a final comment I'd like to make is, going through the budget process, how intense it is and how important it is. But I know that you and your staff do an excellent job.
Thank you.
I just want to compliment you on that.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do, because there is, and again, that's a very much a team effort. But
Yeah.
And I really do appreciate your saying that. And you're supposed to say something about the bricks.
Thanks. Now, if you haven't purchased your brick yet, you can buy a brick, and it'll be displayed outside, and you can have pretty much anything put on it you want: name of your business, name of your family, name of your kids, a wedding anniversary present, possibly. It'd be a great idea. But contact Debbie Orsburn here at the Mills Conference Center. Call her up, and she can take care of your order, and you can have a brick and be a part of this beautiful facility for years and years to come. So if you haven't got one yet, please get one. And for your information, for you that have already purchased a brick, they will be installed within the next couple of weeks. Thanks.